Hello, my beautiful humans, and welcome to the Becoming a Human 2.0 Unscripted podcast. I am your host, Paul McFadden, and it's my mission to create global impact by cultivating real connection through having authentic conversations that matter. Today, I am joined by my special guest, Amy Janece, another beautiful human from Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. In this episode, we discuss the mirror within, self-discovery, and accountability. And of course, this conversation was completely unscripted. Here's a quick peek, and then we'll jump right into the conversation. So enjoy. And remember, we are all here to discover, awaken, and evolve together.
I don't know when that day is coming, but what I do know is I can make every single day count until then. And that flip in perspective or mindset or whatever, like I'm planning a huge celebration for my next birthday, like going on a exotic trip or something phenomenal that I wouldn't just normally do just because. And so like most people look at those milestone birthdays that you mentioned earlier, and for me, it's 46 busts everything wide open for me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to celebrating that instead of like being gloomy. This is the year I die because we don't know. And going into things with that mindset is just going to create that experience for me.
Amy, how are you doing today?
I am doing incredibly well. How are you?
I am doing outstanding. Welcome and thank you for raising your hand and stepping on the stage and being on the show. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. And I've had a few today, but I'm going to ask you a question I haven't asked anybody yet today. I don't even know what I'm going to ask until I actually put the first question out. So my first question for you today is, who is Amy?
Oh, that is a great question. Most of us, I think, want to start that answer with all the roles and titles, right? Our career, profession, whatever. I would say that I am enjoying this human experience and striving to make a more positive, lasting impact on the world than rather than not. So I would say just trying to explore and enjoy every moment that I get to have this experience. That's who I am.
I love that. I love that. There's so much potential out there as we're going through this exploration in this journey. I had a gentleman tell me, he said, I'm not from this planet. I was like, oh, please tell me more about that. I haven't heard that one yet, so let's go down that road. But I think there's a curiosity in the human journey. And I don't think that we ever answer all the questions, right? We're in this experience, whether we're spiritual beings or energetic beings or whatever that looks like for everyone, but we're in this physical experience, having this experience with other people. And sometimes we're doing it together, and sometimes we feel like we're not, but we really are, right? I shared with someone one time, I said, you're me and I'm you. And they were like, oh, wow, I never really thought about it that way. But I feel like that's true. I'm a reflection of you and you're a reflection of me. So we really are one and the same.
Absolutely. So I believe that we are all connected energetically and spiritually in one way or another, in the biggest way.
In the biggest
And
way.
I saw a YouTube video that I'll have to find because I think you'd probably enjoy it. It was basically saying that you are everyone who's ever lived, right? Because we are basically one big consciousness at the end of the day. So every experience that's ever been had is in you. So everyone that's ever lived before is you, and everyone that will ever live in this capacity is you. And it was a pretty fascinating concept, but I agree. And not only that, I'm sure you're well aware that however we perceive others is merely a reflection of ourselves. So every single person we encounter is us because it's how we're seeing everything. And the same
Mm.
goes for the other way. We're all just mirrors walking around reflecting each other to each other, which is
Yeah.
fascinating on how many people disagree or all the conflict and everything else. It's all stemming from inside of us, right? So
Hmm.
it's fascinating to think about it that way.
It is. I love that. I was in a conversation and I've heard some other people talk about this similarly, but it's like when people first meet, I meet your programs. And what I mean is that if we are, and if looking at this from a scientific perspective, neuroscience perspective, we are in the conscious state about 3 to 5% of the time. And so that means that we're in a non-conscious state. Some people would argue unconscious, but I'm gonna say non-conscious state between 95 to 98% of the time or so, right? So when you're in a non-conscious state, what's happening? Before I share that, it's like we've all had the experience, we've driven our car from point A to point B and not remembered the path that we took to get there. And that usually happens because we've driven that path 100 times, 100 different ways, in 100 different conditions, and therefore became part of our blueprint, if you will. And so, therefore, getting in the car, doing all the things, and going to that place doesn't require us to be conscious when it's happening. So we could be distracted. We could be on the phone call. We can listen to the music and singing songs. We could be in deep thought, right? And still get to point B without killing anybody. Now, we all innately know that to be true, right? So when I make the statement of, well, when we meet people, our programs are meeting. And the programs I'm talking about are programs that we received when we were between ages of 0 and 7 or 8, when we were on record. And then we have experiences now, and we think that we're much wiser, much more mature, and much more experienced, and therefore our programs are different. No, but actually, when you have that reaction and that thing triggers you, and this other thing happens, it's just the programming from before that you have now specialized in and mastered, right, for survival purposes. But my program is meeting your program, and when we have conflict, it's the cognitive dissonance between the two programs that are running, and not what we're experiencing in the present moment. We're not even really experiencing the present moment unless it's intriguing and novel for us. So,
Yeah.
I mean, when I say that, I was that sick because sometimes it sounds crazy to people, but
No, I get it. So I've actually had a similar conversation. I just didn't articulate it that way.
mm,
Actually, I would say what you did just brought it more, what you said just brought what I'm about to say to more depth to me.
mm,
Political stuff, right?
mm,
I don't really discuss politics, political beliefs, any of that, other than I believe that our government probably needs to be just reconstructed completely, tear it down, reconstruct it. Anyway,
mm,
that's my belief. But I was observing a lot of people that I respect, know, love, and care about, and observing different opposing views, right? Opposing sides. And the way that the attacks to each other and to the political parties were going, I was fascinated because when I asked the question, what is it that you actually want? What is the policy, or what do you want this country to look like?
mm,
They all said the same things.
mm,
And so I was like, what are we really fighting about?
mm,
Because you guys are getting caught up in all these things and attacking people that 2 weeks ago you loved and respected. But now all of
mm,
a sudden, there was a lot of name calling and
mm,
things being flung around. But at the end of the
mm,
day, like, you actually want the same thing. Now, you might believe different people will get you there. That's fine. But let's have
mm,
that conversation. Like, why are we tearing people apart? And I think that fear plays
mm,
a huge role in that because the media plays on that and everything else. But I think that it goes back to our programming, like you just said, that helps me bring that all the way into that lower depth of what is going on. Because people that are normally very logical and sane all of a sudden become absolutely the opposite. I'm like, what is happening to these people?
What's
But
happening to you?
that's a great way to put that. I don't know. So I think you can see where I got that, like where I connected
Yeah,
that. I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. Because
yeah.
I want the same thing.
Want the same thing. I made an observation. back in November, and it was really on the same lines of what you're talking about, is where the, I'll say inspiration, where what the catalyst was. And I just sat back and watched, and I'm like, okay, I saw the same things you saw. And I said, it appears to me that there are a lot of people out there that want the world to change for them, but they want someone else or something else to do it.
Oh,
And when we'd be better served to go inward and think about what's happening on the world on the inside, because the world on the outside is a direct reflection of the world on the inside. So do some work on the inside, change your inner world, and then you're going to show up differently in the outer world. And then you're going to have a different experience.
absolutely. Doing that, okay, taking accountability and responsibility
Mhm.
and doing that self work and really taking stock of all of that opens the door for so many other things. It doesn't make you perfect. That's not
Mhm.
a human experience. But what it does is allows you to open up to have different conversations, to have different understandings. And like you said, it changes your world, which then when you turn that light on, you can put your hand out and help somebody else turn that light on as well. Maybe word something in a different way they haven't heard before and
Mhm.
inspire them to do the same. Like I I had a abusive upbringing and
Mhm.
then got into a very toxic abusive relationship. That's typically that pattern.
Mhm.
And when I left that relationship, I was 32. And that, but I didn't experience most of my late teens and 20s the way most people do because I was in this bubble. And
Mhm.
when I came out of that, there was a few years where I would have, back then, I would have told you I wasn't bitter, but there was parts of me that were bitter. I placed the blame on that person
Mhm.
for everything that had went wrong in my life. And a good friend of mine one day was like, when you take accountability for the role you played and the choices you made,
Mhm.
everything is going to change for you. And of course, I argued that for years because what do you mean? I didn't have a choice. If I wanted to keep my kids, I had to stay in this relationship. And he was like, no, you had a choice. And I was like, no, I couldn't just leave my kids. He said, you could have. He said, I didn't say it was a great choice, but you had a choice. And as soon as I honored that I made that choice and that I participated willingly and I quit blaming him and started taking accountability, I started making changes and my current circumstances completely changed. And that
Mhm.
made me a better mom, a better woman, a better person, a better friend. It made every aspect of my life better because all of a sudden I was responsible for my choices. But that also means that all of those consequences that came with those choices, I'm now responsible for. And most of the time, we don't want that responsibility, right? We'd rather stay in that victim type of
Mhm.
mentality. But as long as you're being a victim, things are happening to you, you'll never take that step forward to make things happen for you and for those around you. So
Yeah.
perspective and choice and all of that is so important.
That's a lot to unpack there. First, thank you for sharing that aspect of your story. I think it's interesting, and I would say that some people would hear that sounds very controversial because it's okay. And I'll be the first person to say anybody that's in any situation like that, or just in situations in general, you're not responsible for the things that other people do to you. But once you become aware of what they have done and how it's impacting you, you then become accountable for doing something different so that it no longer happens to you anymore. And and it's hard for people to wrap their head around when you say, yeah, but you understand you played a role in it. I didn't ask for that. I didn't set out looking for that. I didn't do these things. Like, no, I got it. I do a talk on who are the dream killers in our lives. And I talk about the experience of when we're born, we have all these plans and goals and visions for ourselves, or our parents do, or whoever the caregiver is. And at some point in our lives, someone tells us that we can't do something, or we're not good enough. Or maybe there's a traumatic incident, or we suffer a loss of someone that's really close to us. And that shifts the entire trajectory of what our life ends up being. And so that could happen at age 5, it could happen at age 10, it could happen at age 12, it could happen at age 16, it could happen at 18, 21, 25, 30, 40, and so on and so forth. And I'm using these milestones for a reason, because those are like pivotal moments where we start to make life changing decisions. But we want to blame those the teacher didn't support me, the counselors didn't, this person was bad, I had this experience that was very traumatic, I lost this person. And yes, those things happen. No one's going to deny those things happen. Those things did happen, and people that did those things weren't good, potentially, right?
Yeah.
But okay, now that you're aware of that now, though, right? You played a role, right? And the decisions that we did make had consequences, and of course, we label these consequences good or bad. They're consequences that stem from the experience, and the consequences are there to teach you something. If it wasn't enjoyable, you probably never do that thing again. That'd be
Mhm.
the thought, right? You'd learn from that and won't do it again. If you did, then you hadn't learned a lesson, and you keep having the same lesson until you learn a lesson and stop doing that thing. But if it was a favorable one, you're going to keep doing it because it's pleasurable. Of course, you're going to do the things that are pleasurable, right? But it's hard to change the experiences don't feel great if the experience outside of that is not good either. It's almost like you're going to take the lesser of two evils until you see a better way.
Yep.
We don't change anything until the pain of changing is less than the pain of staying the same.
Yep. I love that quote.
and and that's true for anything that we do. So it's really interesting to say it and then see other people actually talk about their experience and like say the same thing and actually be like, yeah, and I am a better person because I did take responsibility. I stopped that pattern, I interrupted that pattern and chose a different path to take. And when I did that, I was able to heal this trauma. I had healed everything, but at least I healed this one. I learned this lesson and I'm a stronger person for
Absolutely. Okay. So first, thank you for catching that that could be very controversial.
it.
I missed a few things that are important to share in there.
Mm,
I am not taking responsibility or accountability for the actions of the other person whatsoever. Those things were wrong. We should not be treating each other that way. I am merely taking accountability and responsibility for my choices. And
mm,
there's that other saying, when you know better, you can do better. And there's still a lot behind that because once you're in that role, you might not feel you deserve it. You might
mm,
really just not see a way out. So if you're in that situation, I am not making light of that. But with that being said, or and I should say,
and
please know that you matter, your existence matters, and you are loved and cared for. You are important, and please keep going. There is a brighter side when you choose to make those better choices for you, and not every choice has that really lovely outcome right away. It takes time.
mm.
So also give yourself grace. So thank you for stopping me there. That was that side note because I definitely don't want to come off like, oh, it was
No,
all my
no.
fault. It wasn't. Um, and also, good or bad, we're talking
Mhm,
about consequences, good or bad are judgments. I think
mhm,
you said that. I do my best not to use those types of terms. I told someone one time I was watching a good friend of mine and the way he was fathering his children. And I was like, you are such an incredible father. I wish I had that experience with mine.
mm,
And he was like, why? I said, my life would be so much better. He said, would it? I was like, of course. He said, you
mhm.
don't know that. That's not a fair statement. It would be
Yeah,
different. That's all you know. But better, worse, good, bad. He was like, those are judgments. And as soon as you step out of judgment, life gets a lot sweeter because you're able to actually view things for what they are and just know, oh, that's different. This is my experience. This is where I'm at. And this is where I want to go. But sometimes things happen and it's just different. So that
yeah,
helped me put a lot of things in perspective too, instead of wishing for things to have been different in the past, which we can't change, or desiring things to be different even now, but looking at it would just be different. I really don't know if that would be better, but that lets you get away from that and get to experience and enjoy what you actually have at your fingertips.
yes, you said a lot of things there. All right, let me. So I love it because I think a lot of times many people get caught up in the, oh, if this happened, they'd be so much better. And you're right, you have no idea. Your choices. So here's the thing: everything that we could possibly imagine for ourselves has already been created. It already exists. But it's the moment to moment choices that we make that then take us down the path. And just because we think that this thing is different, therefore it's going to be good, we have no idea. Ram Dass said this thing, and I've said it a lot in this podcast. I've said it maybe 3 or 4 times over the period of over the course of many episodes now. But I said every experience you've had in the past leads to right now. And if you hadn't had those experiences and made any of the choices that you made, you and I would not be sitting having a conversation right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You wouldn't be here breathing with me right now. You could potentially be somewhere else or not be here at all. Same for me. So all the things that and when I first digested that and actually put it in a space of knowing that to be true and not just believing or just hearing it and saying, yeah, dismissing, just, oh, maybe it's true. But actually wrapping my head around it and say, you know what, that's absolutely true. It changed my perspective on all the things that I've experienced in the past. It was like, you know what, all those things happened to allow me to be present in this moment right now. And what I need to be, actually, I hate the word to use, I hate using the words need and should. What would better serve me is to be grateful for the experiences that lead to now.
Yes. Regrets. Somebody had asked, oh, do you have any regrets? Or the other question is, do you wish that maybe you had did something different? And very similar, I thought about it and I said, no, everything that I went through, everything that happened, I'm grateful that I am right here, right now. I have an amazing life. I have
Mm-hmm.
2 amazing adult sons. And like you said, we wouldn't be sitting here. I have no idea what my life would have looked like had I made different choices then. What I do know is I'm grateful for the life I have today.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I wouldn't change anything.
Right.
And I get to use that experience to hopefully inspire other young ladies in particular, but anybody to
Mm-hmm.
maybe not put themselves or their children through certain things because you don't have to.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, respecting choice and just allowing myself to be the vessel for whatever message I can be for whoever needs it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you on that. No regrets because
Yeah.
I'm grateful for this moment. I'm grateful for this conversation. And I think I told you, thank you for having me. If not, thank you for
Oh,
having me.
absolutely. No, it's an honor for me. Something you were saying, and I want your thoughts on it because I think that someone who's listening to this will say, okay, what if I have regrets? Okay, I hear what you're saying, Amy and Paul, but what if I got regrets? I got an answer for it, but I'm wondering what you would say to that if someone asked you that question.
My response would be, this is your experience, so you're allowed to have whatever you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask how those regrets are serving you.
Mm-hmm.
How are those regrets changing your situation today?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I look back at the choices that I'm maybe not as proud of, what I take with me is that I know I would not make that same choice today.
Yeah.
But without that experience, who knows where I would be right now?
Right.
Like when you're running late for something and everything seems to be going wrong and you're flustered and you're frustrated, most of us have probably had that experience. I have a horrible habitual habit of being late. It was given my whole life that I'm
Mm-hmm.
working to step out of. But those times when I'm like, no, I'm going to be on time, and maybe I'm doing everything right to make sure I'm early, and yet I'm still running behind. And then when I get on the freeway, there's a bad accident that happened 5 minutes before. You would have been
Mm-hmm.
right there. So maybe sometimes things happen because you're not supposed to be there. So if I would have regretted or whatever that I had that experience of running behind, maybe I wouldn't have made it at all.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? So I would ask, how is that regret serving you? And what
Mm-hmm.
purpose does that give you? Because that's another reason why I hope I don't understand the regret thing at this point with where I'm at now. Because what's the
Yeah.
point? But
What's the
how does
point?
that help me? Because I can't change any of it anyway.
That's the thing.
And
You can't
again,
change it, right? You can't change it.
no. And there
Um,
aren't many things we can't do. That's one.
right. That's one thing. You can't change that. You can change your life. There are things that I had done in my youth. I wished that I had lived in a foreign country. Guess what? I still have a body and I'm still able to do that. Okay, pursue that now. Okay, so you didn't do it when you were 21. And you can sit here and be like, well, I can't do it and I didn't do it and I regret not doing it. So, well, what's stopping you from doing it today? Is that something that you still really want to do? And is that required part of your calling? Whatever that, if it's part of your calling, then maybe you do need to get up and figure that out. Sometimes these things that we thought we wanted in the past no longer service. Therefore, it's what's the point of pursuing it?
Absolutely.
I find it an interesting thing. Like there's things you can't change. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. We like to believe it is. 29,200 days, right? And that's how much we got in this experience. And we've already lived some of it. And we spend so much time worried about the future when we can't predict it. Now, I will say you can become the architect of your experience and you start intentionally choosing the direction and the path you want to go. You got a target, right? It gives you a target. If I choose to do things this way, I should ultimately be here. But see, then you're shooting on yourself. And so it's all a guess. So we're using probability. So it's almost live now. Today, I'm aiming this way. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to continue aiming this way because I like the experience I'm having so far. And I'm going to keep aiming this way. I can look at tomorrow, but your breath is not guaranteed. So make the most of it.
Yes. So I was at a retreat, a speaker's retreat. I wasn't even a speaker yet. This is like the weekend that everything unfolded for me,
Mm,
ironically. Anyway, there was a exercise that one of the speakers gave us, and that was to basically write your obituary, right? Write your eulogy or your obituary.
yeah, yeah.
And they played this music and everybody's somber. And I understand, or my understanding is that the point of the exercise is to get you to see how are you living and is that how you want to be remembered? And I was excited. Like I'm writing mine and I'm just so excited because I'm like, wow, I achieved the type of life that I want to be remembered for. I'm living my truth.
Mm,
I'm doing these things. And I just thought that was interesting. So when we were asked to share it, I'm all excited. They were looking at me like, what is going on? But I told them it's because I realized that I started making choices in my life.
mm,
So the people that are closest to me, if you were to ask them to stand up and speak or whatever the case may be, they would tell you she lived life on her terms. This is what
mm,
she was doing. And
mhm,
that's for me, that's all I can ask for. Like, I want the people around me to know that they are loved and valued and that I'm living life the way that I believe I should be, right? I'm enjoying it, I'm taking opportunities.
mm,
So it's interesting to look at things that way because we don't know what's to come. My birthday was a week ago.
mm. Happy
And
birthday, belated.
thank you.
Mm,
I turned 45, which is a weird age for me because my father and my grandmother both passed away at the same age.
mm,
And I have a lot of the same medical issues that eventually led to their death. So most of my life, I held this thought that I'm going to die when I'm 45 anyway.
mm,
So
mhm.
I would say my late 30s, I was YOLO. Like I was reckless. Like I ain't got that much time, so let me just
All
get it in.
right. Mm,
And then I realized this is not set in stone unless I create that. So I started making changes. I started looking at my lifestyle, my habits, my health, realizing that there are some differences. Both of them smoked. I don't. Like there's different things that's not written in stone unless I barrel down that path and make it
yeah,
happen. I don't know when that day is coming, but what I do know is I can make every single day count until then.
yeah.
And that flip in perspective or mindset or whatever, like I'm planning a huge celebration for my next birthday, like going on a
Mm,
exotic trip or something phenomenal that I wouldn't just normally do just because. And so like most people look at those milestone birthdays that you mentioned earlier, and for
mhm.
me it's 46 busts everything wide open for me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to celebrating that instead of like being gloomy. This is the year I die because we don't know. And going into things with that mindset is just going to create that experience for me. I don't desire to
Mm.
do that. I feel like I have a lot more to give and accomplish. So we're going to see what happens. But there was a reason I shared that. And now I don't remember the point.
What I'm hearing is there's purpose, legacy, living life on your own terms. You were talking about writing the eulogy, and I think that's a really interesting exercise, and it's how people perceive it. Some people would talk about all the sadness that people and all the despair experience because of they left this planet, left this experience. And I think you're right. The reason why I brought purpose and legacy into that equation because it sounds those are the things that you're thinking about. So it's what shifts the perspective. It turns it to the side a little bit because oh, you're living on your terms. You're doing all the things that you dreamed of doing. That sounds like you got purpose. You're living in your calling, right? You're called to do X, Y, and Z. And I want to ask you that question in a moment. But, and you're thinking about the impact and legacy that you're leaving behind. And I think that as you were talking, I was thinking about what would mine look like. And I started thinking along the same terms: legacy, impact, world changer, touch many people's lives. And I know for me, that came from my grandfather's passing, which was many years ago. And I remember when I went to his funeral, I want to say it was 2005. I went to his funeral and there were hundreds of people at his funeral. And speaker after speaker got up and talked about how he changed their life, how he was a mentor, how he helped their family, how he helped my mom, how he got my dad a job, how he did this, how he got my brother out of trouble, and all these different things. And I was like, that man left a legacy. He wasn't just my grandfather, my pop, right? He was like, in his community, he was like the unofficial mayor, and everybody came to him with their challenges and problems, and he helped everybody that he could. If he had a breath in his body, he helped them. And I knew after that I wanted to be that type of person. I knew that before, but it set that in stone for me. Was like, be good to people, treat people like they want to be treated, and just try to show up as your best self. Not perfect by any means. I've certainly had my time in my days, but at the same token, you learn the lessons. Yeah, I didn't show up the way I needed to show up, or how I had promised I would show up. I need to do better, and then we learn how to do better. And sometimes it takes hearing it 10 different times, 10 different ways, from 10 different people over 10 years to make it happen. But when it does, and I would want people to be happy because they remember the impact.
I look at death a little differently than a lot of people. I ride motorcycles, and in the motorcycle community, there's
Yes. There's that all the time. You kind of might be
there's I have a
diverse.
Suzuki Gixxer 750, a Suzuki Gixxer 1000, and a Victory Cross Country.
Ooh,
Um,
phew, victory cross country.
mhm.
What? Okay.
So in that community, like I've been to far more funerals than I have been to weddings and baby showers combined.
Mm-hmm.
And I share that with people, especially younger people, like, oh, that's so cool. I want to ride. If you want to ride, but please know that statistically there are some consequences to this.
Yeah.
And it's a small community, and getting into it, you're going to experience that. Now, because I experienced a lot of death in my family at an early age, I've been around it
Mm-hmm.
forever, for my whole life, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it differently, where a lot of people are looking at the loss, which, yes, we're losing that person in the physical sense.
Mm-hmm.
I urge people to get in touch with what you believe happens next and take a little bit of comfort in that. But also, I focus on remembering. I focus on gratitude of, wow, I actually got to know this person. I actually got to call them a friend, or whatever they were to me. And a
Mm-hmm.
similar experience, I was at one of those funerals for one of my brothers, and seeing hundreds of men that are typically very macho, this and that, seeing all of them cry, and the impact that that man left, just because he was such a bright light.
Mm-hmm.
Might not have did anything super phenomenal for any of them, but he was a bright light. And every single one of us remembered that hearty laugh that we heard from him all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can touch people in a very, I don't want to say small and a minimal way, but just even a basic, normal day-to-day type of way, that you don't know where the impact goes from that. Like, just showing up the best you can impact so many people. Like, going through the ex situation, shortly before I left that situation, I was in a very dark place. And I felt like my existence here did not matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into the gas station, and the guy behind the counter just said, "How are you today?" And I know it was small talk. He probably said that to 100 different people that day, but I started crying. And he
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Okay." I was like, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just nobody has cared how I am. Like, nobody." So we ended up having a conversation, but that little interaction, that little question, that little nice human thing to do
Yeah.
made a difference, because I felt seen, or, oh, wait, I am here. Like, I'm not just invisible floating through this space. You never know what a smile can do for someone. You never know what a kind word can do for someone, because even the people that appear the happiest,
Yeah.
they might be going through something a whole lot different inside. So it doesn't cost you anything to smile or be kind or be the best you can be. And also allow people to be there for you when you're not feeling your best. Because people
Yeah.
actually do care. More often than not, most of us do care.
More people care. Sometimes I don't think they know how to express it. Maybe it's that. But you shared a lot of things there, and it actually brought another question to mind, or one of the last questions I'm going to ask you, because I think that I talk a lot about purpose. And I say purpose for everyone is growing and giving. Grow yourself, give to others. It's default purpose for everybody. But the way you grow and the way you give is unique to you as an individual. And so how I grow myself and how I give is my way, whatever I'm called to do. And how you grow and give is your way and however you're called to do. And this is for everybody. And it really stems from your values, your passions, and your unique gifts. And a lot of people, when I say that, I say, so it's your calling. They think that, oh, you got to be called to do something really good. And it's always like monetarily based. I'm like, giving is not just about money. Giving is being compassionate. Giving is being empathetic, asking the question, being authentic in your check-ins with people. Giving could be providing support, being a listener, being a good listener. It could be the voice of reason. It could be a lot of things, right? It can be baking cakes for the ladies at the retirement home. I don't know. It could be anything. I mean, but it's, what are you feeling called to do was the thing that came to my mind. And I think it's the last question I'm going to ask you as we get ready to wrap up this conversation is, what is Amy called to do right now?
I would say in a variety of ways. I hold the mirror for other people to see their beauty inside and out.
Mm,
We have so many false things like shoved in our faces, like filters and surgeries and this and being told you're not good enough and the programming from childhood and trauma and all these other things where we tend to try to hide parts of ourselves
mm,
because we don't think that other people will love us if they see that.
yeah.
The majority of the time, those parts of yourself that you're trying to hide are your greatest gifts. And when you allow yourself to just be you and love you and accept you, then you can shine in a whole different way on the outside, which then impacts everyone in the special, unique way that you get to impact people, right? They share your gifts. If you're so busy hiding your gift because you think, and I don't think we just have one, but let's say one of your greatest gifts,
Multiple gifts.
right? Let's say you're so busy hiding one of your greatest gifts because you don't think people will love you. For instance, people who tend to talk a lot and they're loud. As children, they're told you talk too much, be quiet. Children are to be seen and
Mm,
not heard. So if that person grows up and they're not expressive and they're not sharing, but that's actually one of their gifts, they're an amazing storyteller and they just have a lot to offer.
mhm.
If they're not offering it, they're robbing themselves of that experience as well as the rest of us, right?
Right.
So I would say I hold the mirror to try to not try. I hold the mirror so that when you're ready to look and see those gifts that are in you and accept them and love them, you get to do that. And I'm a cheerleader for that. So that's I think my bigger purpose.
That's amazing. Thank you for being the mirror. Thank you for being the mirror. If people wanted to find you, socials, books, anything like that, tell me where we can find you.
So Amy Janece, Janece. You can go to amyjanece.com or embodyyourelement.com. And you can find all my socials there. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn as Amy Janece. So that name, you'll pull up any way to contact me or learn more about me or what I do. I have an author page on Amazon as well. So same thing.
Awesome. And then all that will be in the episode notes as well. So it will be below this episode. Amy, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show, for answering the call, for sharing your story, sharing your thoughts, insight, and wisdom, for being the mirror. And I will have you back. So you don't get out of this, get the one and done. This is a repeat relationship.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to be here and having me here. It's definitely been a pleasure.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the next time. What if personal growth wasn't meant to be a solo journey? What if the transformation you've been seeking isn't found in another self-help book, but can be found in a living, breathing ecosystem of growth? Welcome to the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator, where conscious evolution meets authentic connection. Life isn't something that is just happening to you. It's calling you to step into something greater, to break through your limitations, to unlock your highest potential. But here's the truth. Transformation isn't meant to happen alone. Deep down, we all long for something more than self-improvement. We crave real human connection, a space where we are seen, understood, and supported in our evolution. That's why we created the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator, a high-frequency space where seekers, world changers, and conscious leaders come together to evolve. Integrating our Becoming Human 2.0 blueprint, we merge science, ancient wisdom, and personal mastery to create deep, lasting transformation. Your journey? The 3 phases of evolution. Discover who are you and why are you here? Gain clarity, expand your awareness, and reconnect with your highest self. Awaken. Step into mastery. Optimize your heart, mind, body, and spiritual energy. Align with your purpose. Evolve. Embody your highest and true self. Sustain transformation. Live in flow and create meaningful impact. This isn't just another course, and it's not just another community. It's something much deeper. A space with purpose, a tribe, a living, breathing ecosystem of transformation, guided by the 5 pillars of human alchemy and the 7 domains of personal mastery. Here's what makes the incubator unique. A personalized, science-backed roadmap or path for true transformation without the hype. A real, connected tribe of like-minded humans. Not just another online group or activity-based community. Live coaching, expert mentorship, and energy-based practices. A fusion of modern science, ancient wisdom, and conscious alignment. And that is only the beginning. Now, you might be wondering if this is for you. So, if you're feeling stuck, disconnected, or craving a real path to mastery, if you know that you're meant for something greater, if you're feeling the call to help guide others in their personal journey, or if you're simply ready to evolve beyond limitations, then the incubator is definitely for you. Special invitation founding members offer. The first 20 individuals to join will gain access at a special grandfather founding members rate. This is a one-time opportunity before these spaces are filled. Are you ready to step into your highest potential? Join the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator today. Comment Evolve or click the link below to get started. The next version of you is waiting.